Cheers. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be your update for Friday, January 11th. At least your morning one. Who knows what's going to happen today going into the weekend. But we've got a variety of topics to discuss here. A couple of new Q posts from early this morning that we'll cover. And then we're going to go into talking about the border wall. We're going to talk about the magnetic pole shift. We had an article come into the mainstream media about that. So we're going to discuss that topic. Radio waves coming from space. Reid and his UFO obsession. We'll talk that and why he wants to get back into the UFO phenomenon, why he's talking about it. And then some interesting articles coming out of the mainstream media in regards to physics. That's a little later. But first, let's start with new Q. So let's go ahead and check it out here. This one, let me zoom in so you can see on the screen. So this one here, we got some new booms. Boom, boom, boom. Good old Q booms. I like when I see those. And then this next one, we get a photograph. And it's a photograph that I presume is from China, because when we read the caption, Q says, awaiting VIP arrival. What senior U.S. official is arriving in China? And what's the purpose of it? So in decoding this, I don't exactly know what senior U.S. official is arriving in China. I tried to Google various names and see where they were at. My best guess, now this is not confirmed, is that it's this guy, Matthew Pottinger. And the reason I think it's him is because he is part of Donald Trump's U.S. National Security Council. He basically was the liaison between a lot of the talks that were going on in early 2018, I believe, between China, North Korea, and the U.S. But he is like a name that's under the radar. He's way under the radar, but he has a massive impact. I believe this guy actually worked for General Flynn when Flynn was in Afghanistan as well. Co-wrote a paper with him. So this guy is, again, a name that flies under the radar, but he makes a huge impact. He's got a big hand in what's going on. So might be him, might be somebody else, but basically this photograph taken from that Chinese airport, apparently wherever that VIP, that very important person, was arriving into. So this photograph probably taken by Secret Service is my guess, and then passed along the chain to whoever commandeers Q's posting on 8chan, and they posted it here. So I think that's where we get that photograph. Next drop, Q reposts a drop of theirs from the 6th of January, and this was the drop where they were talking about RBG, Ruth Ginsburg. And then Q goes on to say, at what point is it mathematically impossible the very next day? Meaning that Q was talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the 6th. The 7th is when we learned about Ruth Ginsburg missing the Supreme Court. And I think it's going on like the 4th or 5th day that she's missed now. We'll talk about her a little bit more in a sec. But what point is it mathematically impossible? I.e., how many times do we have to get these sorts of confirmations, these sorts of proofs where Q talks about a topic, we get news on that topic the very next day or very soon afterwards. So obviously, more proofs. Red Castle, Green Castle, public access to intel. Red Castle meaning the Army Corps of Engineers, who are going to build the wall once that national emergency gets declared, you know. And Q saying public access to intel, meaning that since the beginning of Q's drops over a year ago, us Anons, us that follow Q, decode all of what they tell us, we have details. We have intelligence before the mainstream media does, before, you know, the rest of the public do that don't follow Q. And then very last drop we have here, Q says, if a woman is selected as the nominee, does that eliminate the wrap-up smear regarding sexual assault? What other tactics might be planned to block and or force name removal? Why is the Senate important? Who controls the Senate? 53 to 47. When I read this, my thought goes to impeachment talk. Why is the Senate important? Because with a majority control of the Senate, no matter how hard the opposition or the deep state tries to get Donald Trump impeached, that's not going to happen if they have majority control of the Senate. You need a 2/3 vote in the Senate for impeachment to proceed. 53-47, meaning, well, that's another Q proof we have. Q referencing 53 to 47 well before midterms. And then after midterms, what do we get in the Senate? 53-47 control. So why is the Senate important? not only for that impeachment, but so many other things. They confirm appointments from the president, all sorts of stuff. So very good news that we got the Senate from the midterms. All right, so we went over Q, and let's go into talking about RBG. So White House prepares for Ginsburg Supreme Court vacancy. Like I said, I think this is going on maybe day 5 now, where we haven't seen her, heard from her. I would like a proof of life, you know. Who knows where she's at, or how long her nap has been taking her. But wow, what a coincidence. Q referencing RBG, and it looks like she's going to be out very, very soon. Talking Trump border security. Of course, Donald Trump was down at the border in Texas yesterday. Trump highlights human trafficking as he calls for strong barrier during visit to U.S. and Mexico. Human trafficking, drug trafficking, basically every time Donald Trump talks about the wall, he talks about those things, which is fantastic, putting it right there on display. And every time we hear somebody detract from the wall, they're trying to put anti-wall arguments out there, they never talk about trafficking. They never talk about drug trafficking, human trafficking, these sorts of things. They just instantly turn the narrative into something completely whitewashy, saying that Donald Trump's throwing a fit, that we don't need the wall, that it's immoral, whatever the case is, I don't know. But looks like that wall is going to come down to national emergency issue. And what's going on now is that Donald Trump is basically just making the opposition, making the deep state, and all of their proxies, all their little pawns in the political scene, making them look as stupid as possible. We had that video of Jim Acosta at the wall yesterday, and he was going along saying, oh, wow, there's no national emergency issue here. Look at this wall. He's like hitting the steel barriers as he goes past. And obviously, look, it was peaceful there because there was a wall that was separating him from the other side. So he is letting the opposition make the case for him, essentially. And this, coming out of the Daily Caller yesterday, surprised me. I think this goes hand in hand with the plan to get the wall erected. DOD Inspector General reveals the Pentagon let $27.7 billion expire as Trump seeks, about $5 billion in border wall funding. So this makes me think of that Pentagon audit. The Pentagon audit where, if you don't know, we had the very first audit of the Pentagon ever take place last year, fiscal year 2018. And the results of that audit really haven't been publicized. They haven't been admitted. The DOD has not really said anything about it, other than it is, quote, failed. They say it's failed. Of course, it's a massive agency with billions or trillions of dollars they're trying to reconcile, figure out where it's gone. But with that audit, since we have the alliance, the white hats in power now, they were able to secure control of the presidency in 2016. Of course, auditing the Pentagon, basically a massive slush fund, is a huge task. Of course, I'm sure it's essential to the plan, and they're working on figuring out how the heck to disclose not only the amount of money that's been misadjusted, but where it's gone to. And of course, in that audit, they've also been able to figure out where there might be some funds stashed away, maybe in this account over here that just got forgotten about, or over here. And it seems reasonable to me that they're taking these funds that they're like, oh, wonderful, we found this, we found this, we found this, and they're strategically bringing it out when they need to. The Inspector General, DOD IG, back in 2016, it was the DOD IG that put out a report detailing $6.5 trillion in misadjustments from the Pentagon. So the DOD IG is essential to all of this going on. They're essential to the Pentagon audit and getting that disclosed. So with $30 billion being found, I'm sure during that audit, they just found this kind of tucked away, maybe in some back corner. And they said, great, now we can use this money for whatever we need to when we need to. And they just had that tucked away in their back pocket. Bringing it out now, they're saying, hey, we already have money for a border wall, so why are all you fools in the opposition trying to say it's too expensive, or whatever the case is. So we have $5 billion now, it looks like, for a border wall. Easy. Activate Red Castle, get the Army Corps of Engineers to build that. We got what? How much money left over now in this extra money that expired? Shoot, we could build a Space Force with that, right? I'm all for it. $5 billion for the Space Force, $5 billion for a wall. That's only $10 billion. We got like $17 billion left over. What are we going to do with that? Shoot. So, plenty of money there for all sorts of great things. That's a good idea, in my opinion. I would love to see the Space Force created with these extra funds that we know are there. They just haven't been utilized. So, there's that. We talked border security. We talked RBG, went through Q. Now let's go on into the pole shift. So, this going around all sorts of mainstream media companies, outlets yesterday. Fox News here reporting something very strange is happening to Earth's magnetic North Pole, and no one knows why. Of course, they claim no one knows why, but we're going to connect the dots here and discuss. So, the idea of a magnetic pole shift, this is something that I've been talking about for a couple of years now. Many others have been talking about even before I learned about it. And the magnetic poles of our Earth, not just the North Pole, but the South Pole as well, they're both moving. They're tracking, and they're moving exponentially faster and faster, you know? And this has been really going on since they began tracking the North Pole since the early 1900s. But what's amazing is within the last about 10, 15 years, the magnetic North and South Pole are moving so much faster than ever before. It's as if within 6 months to a year now, it's moving at a rate that used to take 10 to 15 years. So like I said, exponential. And we're waiting for them to flip. We are waiting for them to flip. It's going to be sort of a quantum event. It's going to be very quick. So why is this intriguing that it's hitting the mainstream media? This is actually not the first time the mainstream media has reported on this. They've done so a handful of times. In 2018, we'll get an article of it circulate around every 3 or 4 months or so. But what's intriguing about this to me is that they're reporting on this in Fox News and everywhere else. And this is after we've had a lot of information start blowing up in the underground circuit about the pole shift. So first, we have Suspicious Observers. If you don't follow Suspicious Observers' YouTube channel, go do it. Suspicious Observers, fantastic scientific research about space weather, about many cosmic shifts that we have going on. Ben Davidson really puts into scientific terms the magnetic pole shifting, the what many New Agers call the event, basically our shift of our solar state, call it a micronova, call it a galactic superwave. That's what Paul Laviolette calls it. Call it many different things, but basically we're at the end of a cycle. You very well know this. We see the symptoms of it everywhere. We're at the end of a particular cycle, not just on our Earth, but within our solar system, our star, and we can even expand that out and say this region of the galaxy even. But we're at the ending of a cycle and the beginning of another. There's a lot of changes that occur at the ending of these cycles. We have a micronova, a big solar flare. Our sun changes states. This causes a pole shift to occur. With our Earth, then it changes states. Maybe not just a magnetic pole shift, but could be geophysical as well. And many other things. There's so many things going on at this moment in time. Suspicious Observers does, nearly an hour or two of video discussing this. Dr. Michael Sala on his exopolitics.org website put out this article on the 9th. So this was 2 days ago. This was the day before Fox News started talking about it. Ben Davidson put out these videos back in middle of December, and he's been releasing about one a week since then. So, like I said, this information's been really bubbling up on the underground, so it's funny that the mainstream media is reporting on this. But back to Sala's article here, exopolitics.org. Massive pole shift are cyclic, according to declassified CIA document. Dr. Sala goes on to talk a little bit about Ben Davidson's series in this article. He goes to talk a little bit about the pole shifts and a little bit more about that. So I'll link all this below. Interesting times we're in. I think we are going to see it in our lifetimes. Mainstream media and some mainstream scientists like to say that the pole shift takes a long, long time. We don't know if it's ever going to happen, something like that. But I think they're just trying to brush it under the rug. The way that the magnetic poles are moving and how fast they're moving and how exponentially quicker they're moving, I think we could very well see it within the next couple decades. We're going to see a lot of things within the next couple decades, not just pole shifts, but solar changes. So that's why the plan, That's why the takedown of the deep state is so crucial. It's time sensitive. It's really time sensitive. We can't let it drag out for a long, long time. So there's some there's a reason why they're moving so quick with it all, and why 2016 was crucial. And there's also a reason why the elites, the powers in control, they had a 16-year plan for America, really the world, because they knew some changes were imminent, and they wanted to bring their agenda to fruition before the galactic changes take place, but that's not happening. Okay, pole shift, now moving on into radio signals. Repeated radio signals coming from galaxy 1.5 billion light years away, scientists announce. Yawn. Yawn. How many of these FRBs, these fast radio bursts, have we been told about over the past couple of years? It's just really like, it's akin to bacteria on Mars. Oh, great, bacteria on Mars. Oh, great, fast radio bursts. It's like, it's nothing, you know? It's nothing compared to the depths of the information that we have available over the magic of the internet, discussing the ET presence, discussing the technologies associated with it, what we've learned from it, different testimony of people who have experiences, military whistleblowers, secret space program information. So this is just a joke. They are trying to keep the idea of UFOs and ETs in the mass consciousness in a very dull way, just so they're thinking about it. So if they need to run with any story to distract people with, they can do that. This story, not very distracting because there's not much meat to it, but speaking of something that could be a lot more distracting, a partial disclosure the deep state wants to play to brush the rest of their crimes against humanity under the rug. How about Harry Reid pushing for more UFO research? So Harry Reid, back from the dead, I guess. Harry Reid gave a podcast interview or a radio interview within the last day or two. And within this, he basically said that he wants to lobby for more UFO research. Now remember, Harry Reid was the initiator of the ATIP program. That was the program that was disclosed, finger quote disclosed, by the New York Times in that December 2017 report. It was never actually classified, so it wasn't really disclosed. That's why I'm finger quoting that. But this program, this ATIP program that Harry Reid initiated back in 2007, $22 million, all they really did was make some fake videos and claim they were studying UFO sightings that the military had, but it was nothing. Again, nothing compared to trillions and trillions of dollars missing from the Pentagon, building out secret spacecraft with electrogravitic drive systems and installations under the ground and who knows where else. So again, limited hangout disclosures, partial hangout disclosures. They're giving you a sliver of the truth to distract and wow the public, to then make them forget about the more damaging facts. We know Harry Reid is corrupt as heck. John Podesta has his fingerprints all over this ATIP program. As we saw in the WikiLeaks emails, John Podesta was emailing with Tom DeLonge and a couple Air Force generals and a dude from Lockheed. And we got Harry Reid, and we've got all sorts of mainstream media outlets who have been reporting on this ATIP program. As Q even said, basically these drops that came out are a huge distraction. Okay, so that's the only reason Harry Reid wants to get pushed for more UFO research, because the deep state, that's their, we could call it a false flag, for lack of a better term. That's their distraction they want to play. That's why media has been reporting that in 2019, we're going to be hearing about more disclosures from this ATIP program or from Tom DeLonge's To the Stars Academy. And they're just trying to piece together anything they can to roll out, since Trump-Q alliance is backing the deep state into a corner. So there's that about Harry Reid. Speaking of disclosures, I'm not going to spin any sort of narrative on this one. I just found it intriguing coming out from Wired, so it was mainstream media. It says, a magic wand. Nope, just good old-fashioned physics. Okay? This sort of shocked me, actually. I'll be honest. It kind of shocked me. What they began talking about in this article, it came out just yesterday on the 10th. They are literally talking about electrostatic forces repelling things. They're talking about what's called the Coulomb force. It's an interaction between any two electric charges. And it essentially is an attractive and a repulsive force. I'm not going to read the whole article, but you can see here in the videos they're playing, they're showing the Coulomb force in action. It has a retraction and then a repulsion. You know, they're showing very basic tabletop experiments here. Showing a couple bigger ones. They're showing how even you can make a wand where you can repel things with the Coulomb force, with this electrostatic force. And it's very intriguing. Now, look into the research of T. Townsend Brown. T. Townsend Brown, back in the 1940s and 50s, was making large metal discs levitate and propel themselves with electrostatic, high voltage electrostatic charges. So it wasn't using the electrons from your hand in a PVC pipe to repel some aluminum. He was using a lot of volts pumped into metal discs. Really, any crystalline material will work. His discs were metal, and he, boom, big discs, going a couple hundred miles an hour. So back to this article, a magic wand, nope, just good old-fashioned physics. They're literally putting, we could call it very basic, very, very basic black project research out into the public domain. This is sort of disclosure that's going on, bit by bit, piece by piece. You know, they're seeding the public's consciousness. They're talking about how electricity, which of course is everywhere. We live in an electric universe. And talking about how electricity can repel things. It's essentially electrogravitics, right? I was just amazed when I saw this. They're doing it. They are bit by bit, article by article, putting out disclosure information. It's fascinating. And last article I want to talk to you guys about is this. Good old flat Earth. I can already feel the dislikes on this video begin to rise. The shills coming into the comments. All aboard the flat Earth cruise. Just don't tell them about nautical navigation. What are those flat earthers going to do when the poles shift, right? Oh God, the poles flipped around a rounded Earth. But anyway, so apparently there's this flat Earth conference, this group that's planning a cruise, and they're planning a cruise for a flat Earth conference. And then this article goes on to state, well, cruises' navigation systems, their GPS, works with spherical Earths. So they go on to discredit flat Earth and do all that. And the point I want to make here about the flat Earth Psy-Op is that you have a lot of Psy-Ops specifically created by the deep state so they can run with it in the mainstream media and then use it to marginalize, use it to discredit all conspiracy theories. Because in the mainstream media, they'll say, wow, conspiracy theorists believe this thing. Everything else they must believe and look into must be ridiculous, right? That's exactly their modus operandi here. So with the flat Earth, it's just absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Unfortunately, some people still believe in it. And the mainstream media, they can very easily discredit, throw shade on truth seekers with something like flat Earth theory. Again, with something like JFK Jr. being alive. A lot of people are running with that. Very easy ammunition for the mainstream media, for the opposition to use to discredit communities, truth seekers, conspiracy theorists, if you want to call it that. Discredit them with, okay? Moon landings are fake. Another good one. This is why you see flat Earth and the moon landings are fake. You see so much of that shillery promoted on the internet. How many YouTube comments do you see from flat earthers? Moon landing is fake. JFK Jr. is alive. How many bot accounts do you see go into Twitter threads and try to comment that? It's like there are multiple stages of this psyop in play here. They use YouTube commenters and shills on the internet, and the mainstream media discredits it. So there's you know, I could write a thesis paper on social media censorship and how the opposition utilizes it, how they utilize their shills on YouTube and Twitter and 8chan. But anyway, so there's a lot of topics out there that are deep state created psyops to confuse you, distract you, waste your time, discredit in the mainstream. You see what I'm saying. So that's that. That's all I want to share with you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. I'll be back soon. Take care.